Wonderful. Well, Manjeka, everyone. Hello. From me, I'm Anita Go. I'm a senior researcher at the National Aging Research Institute. I specialise in dementia research. I am a Science and Technology Australia Superstar of STEM and also the Vice President of the STA Board. I pay respects to the traditional owners of the land on which I work and live, which is the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay our respects to elders past and present on this country and continent. So whose land are you on right now? I encourage you to think about and acknowledge this and the richness of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, culture and history across our lands and home. So as I stand here in Treasury Gardens with my feet literally on this beautiful land, I'd like to tell you a story about something I learned about the lands around me. For thousands of years before colonisation, the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong people lived around where I live. There's a local playground where I take my young children to play, and it's a really popular spot for parties. So there's a tree there, and it's a really big tree, and it's a really old tree, and people just walk past without realising its significance. There's no sign, there's no plaque. But there is something special about this tree, which I learned, I shared with my children, and that I want to share with you today. It's a scarred tree. And hundreds of years ago, Aboriginal people removed bark from this tree to make something to help them thrive together with their country. It might have been a canoe, a tool, a shield, or maybe a shelter for their children or their family. Or was it someone who decided to create something artistic or spiritual? For thousands of generations, Aboriginal people have lived sustainably with the trees, and rather than chopping them down, harvesting and their resources year after year. They provide Aboriginal people with an important link to culture and history. And for me and my children, it's a window to learning about Aboriginal culture and lessons about the land, sea and sky. And touching that scarred tree connects them to people hundreds of years ago and connect to what it means to live here in the lands of the longest continuing culture in the world. How special it is that we walk on the same brown earth and be deeply, deeply thankful for that custodianship. If you'd like to read more about the history of scar trees, Sandra is going to pop a link in the chat. So for you as well, I really encourage you to learn more about the culture of where you are if you don't already. Maybe keep an eye out for scarred trees, just like I do now. And when you see your next one, stop and reflect on what we can learn about harmony and partnership, sustainability and connection and love of country. Let's use our love of learning and use our voices to support the leadership of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in STEM, acknowledging the vast scientific knowledge and practice honed over 65,000 years, and to support deep ongoing connections and rights to access and protect country. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, for that beautiful, meaningful welcome and acknowledgement of country. Wominjeka here from Wurundjeri country also, and I also get to share the great privilege today of putting my feet on this soil, walking in a very special part of the country where people have given deep custodianship, ownership and skilled stewardship of country that's deeply centred in the STEM disciplines across millennia, tens of thousands of years, the story of the oldest living cultures continuing today anywhere on the planet and evolving still. I'm Misha Schubert, I'm the CEO of Science and Technology Australia, and it's such a delight to be with you all today and to have brought this fabulous event together. Happy International Day of Girls and Women in Science. What a fantastic day. Yes, hooray. It is such a delight to see everyone's faces, this sea of diverse, brilliant, fabulous change makers, trailblazers and visionaries who are changing the face of the science, technology, engineering and mathematics leadership picture in our country through your powerful personal leadership, but also through your collective leadership. The great success of the Superstars of STEM program at its heart is the idea of women lifting up other women, celebrating each other's successes, spurring each other on. And the magic that happens when that occurs, when the conditions are created for women to come together and do that with and for each other, is something incredibly special. Every day, Sandra Gardam, our Superstars of STEM program manager and the Deputy CEO of Science and Technology Australia, and I are so privileged to get to witness your shining stars in the world, your brilliant personal leadership, but also that inspiring collective dynamic between you all. Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be able to be a small part in your lives and your leadership journey. Today, we are launching our first full detailed public evaluation of the Superstars of STEM program, how it works and why it works. And what a day, because today the Australian government has announced a further investment of $2 million so that we can train another 120 women to be brilliant superstars of STEM. Yeah, it's so exciting, isn't it? We are filled with excitement about what this is going to do for the country. And we are delighted and we know you're sharing that excitement as well today, because this is an extension of a continuation of the fabulous leadership that each of you have brought to this program. At the end, our fabulous president, Mark Hutchison, is going to say a whole lot of thank yous, but I particularly want to, while I can see people in the chat, also acknowledge Kylie Walker, who was my predecessor as CEO of Science and Technology Australia and who is the visionary behind this program. Kylie, we will always be indebted to your visionary leadership to bring this into being. And we're so moved that you are here today to celebrate this next success as well. Thank you so much. And to all of you, our mentors, our program supporters, our partners from all of our community and corporate partners without whom this success would not be possible of what the fabulous Superstars of STEM do. The program was born from a really clear insight that it's hard to be what you can't see. And we know that that picture takes a long time to shift, even with all the formidable efforts of so many fabulous people and organisations working to change that picture over time of the underrepresentation of women in science, technology and engineering and maths. Sustained change requires lots of effort over a long period from many, many skilled people. One of the people who has led the charge towards greater advancement through a really special leadership role that she plays as the Australian Government's Ambassador for Women and Girls in STEM is Professor Lisa Harvey-Smith. Before I hand over to Lisa, I actually want to just take 1 minute to talk about why I'm so inspired by watching Lisa's leadership in the world. I think Lisa has done a transformative job to ask many more people who perhaps weren't connected to and invested in the advancing women in STEM agenda to put their own leadership, time, effort and heft into the important work that is happening through this program and many, many others across Australia. And Lisa's deep commitment to ask us all to take seriously the work of properly evaluating what works and not just banking it or congratulating ourselves, but paying it forward by sharing the insights about what makes for that success to the rest of the women in STEM community so that we can learn from each other's successes and spur the pace of change ever faster has been a powerful, powerful force. So Lisa, we are deeply grateful for your leadership. We are inspired by what you do and we thank you and your dedicated staff team for their work every day on this important work for Australia. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Lisa now. I'm shortly going to have to step away to go to another event connected also to today's fantastic celebrations, but I will leave you in the very capable hands of Sandra Gardam and looking forward to seeing all of you in person at some stage in the time ahead so that we can come together in person to celebrate some of these great moments of success for Australia and for women in STEM. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lisa.
Oh, thank you very much for those kind words, Misha. And my feedback to you is you are a fantastic leader of this program and very good at feedback as well. So you're very kind and I really appreciate being invited to speak at this event. So hello, everyone. I'm joining you today from Muwinina country, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this land and pay my respects to elders past and present. And it may not surprise you, if you know me at all, to hear that when I was a child, I was a keen amateur astronomer. So on clear nights, which admittedly were a little bit few and far between in England, I would spend hours on end marveling at the constellations and looking at planets and comets and all sorts of things. I was obsessed with the seemingly magical properties of what was very, very small and things that were unimaginably big. And that's the magic of science. You know, the disciplines of from theoretical physics to cosmology and everything in between. It is magical for young people in particular. But I was recently looking back at this time and sort of considering sort of role models that I had access to. So who were those role models? Well, mostly they were fellow members of Braintree Astronomical Society, which I was lucky enough to join when I was about 12 years old. And it had about 30 regular participants. And looking back, every single one of them was a man above the age of about 50. And every single speaker I had in the 5 years of regularly attending those monthly meetings was a white man. So imagine all the perspectives on astronomy that I missed in my early years and multiply that by millions of people. So what about role models outside the Astronomical Society? Well, as a mad keen amateur astronomer in the UK in the 1990s, and I think people like Sarah Pearce on the call will probably relate to this. The biggest role model around in the UK in astronomy in the 1990s was Sir Patrick Moore. He wrote countless books on astronomy. He presented The Sky at Night, which is the longest running BBC television show, which he presented every single month for over 50 years. But Sir Patrick Moore was a 75-year-old man in an oversized jacket with a comically aristocratic British accent who regularly appeared on television wearing a monocle. So sadly, as I found out in later life, his views on women were pretty appalling as well as on other subjects. So just imagine now for a moment, BBC had not allowed this man to dominate and monopolize our airwaves for in excess of 50 years. Imagine like girls like me had role models like astronomers Dame Jocelyn Bell Burnell, who made the Nobel Prize-winning discovery of pulsars using a radio telescope set up in a field just 15 miles from where I grew up in Cambridge in the UK. By the way, Dame Jocelyn Bell Burnell did not win that Nobel Prize. Her supervisor, her male supervisor, was awarded it. But what would it have meant to me and others like me, girls interested in science and technology, who had no role models like that to actually see women on the television and to hear women on the airwaves? What would it have meant for my physics degree cohort, where I was the only woman in a sea of earnest young men studying physics, or for my PhD workplace, where a frankly toxic sexist culture dominated and was the norm? And what impact would that have on the current crop of professional astronomers, science teachers, science communicators, all of whom were a product of that generational pipeline and that culture? So it's quite easy to see how interconnected all of these things are. So by enabling professional women like yourselves on this call to speak expertly, publicly and authoritatively on matters of science and technology, the Superstars of STEM program is really creating its own ripples of change. It's building a larger cohort of professional women in STEM who have exceptional communication skills and aren't afraid to use them. And that's what we need. This is good for science, it's good for our society, and it's even better for the young women observing our world with their open minds, eyes and ears, and seeing people who look like them talking authoritatively about science and technology. So it continues this marvelous ripple effect. It may look subtle at first, but whose effects will last for generations. And in building this project further, we will see those ripples increase. So I'm very grateful to Science and Technology Australia for publishing the evaluation report today. Figuring out what works and what doesn't work and why is a fundamental pillar of all good gender equity work, and it's absolutely necessary. And it will drive the outcomes we need to achieve gender equity in STEM as outlined in the Women in STEM Decadal Plan. Now, evaluation is critical for us to see where programs are creating impact And that's why my team is building the National Evaluation Portal, which is a website which will allow you to design and evaluate your STEM equity programs, and also to share the results publicly, so we can all learn from each other about what types of interventions are most effective and what doesn't work, and we can stop doing it. So I'm delighted to see the Superstars of STEM leading the way in this practice of evaluation. It's absolutely tremendous. So in closing, I want to congratulate and thank Misha, Sandra, and the whole STA team, and Mark, of course, on a tremendous program. And that kudos to Kylie Walker as well for starting it all off. Thanks to all of you Superstars of STEM on the program for your great work, your hard work and advocacy. And I want to acknowledge the Minister for Science and Technology as well, the Honourable Melissa Price MP, who announced this morning, as Misha has said, $6.7 million of additional funding to support the various Women in STEM programs, including our Future You awareness raising initiative, and of course, more Superstars of STEM. So fantastic work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We also want to say a huge thank you to you and to the Minister, Melissa Price, for her strong leadership around these further investments today. It's a really important moment. We could not have run this program without the strong support of the Australian government from day one of its existence, and that strong support from the Australian government as a whole, from the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, from so many people working across those programs, and from Ministers for Science. Melissa Price, as the current Minister, has got a deep personal investment and connection with the program as well. I'm also cognizant and conscious that her predecessors in that role, Karen Andrews and Michaelia Cash, also felt a similar deep connection to the program and were key in championing it. So we've had such terrific support from across government for this game-changing program for women in STEM, and we want to always acknowledge that and thank all of those people for their strong leadership. I'm going to hand over now to Sandra Gardam to take you through some of the findings from this fabulous evaluation report. Over to you, Sandra, and thank you for your sterling leadership of this program. It is an inspiration every day to get to work with you, and big hat tip to you for your sterling leadership of this program. You've really taken it from strength to strength, continued to innovate and to challenge ourselves, to extend ourselves each time we run another cycle of it. And that clearly shines through in the work that we do each day. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Misha. It's so wonderful to be here today, and I'm really excited to be able to share with you the evaluation results from the Superstars of STEM program. So the reason that I think this program is so amazing is that it takes that really complex problem, which I have to thank Lisa for just setting out in such an amazing, incredible way. She really touched on every component that really makes getting more girls and women in STEM into STEM. She touched on all those problems that makes it a tricky, complex thing to solve. There's not one solution. We all know that. And the reason that I think Superstars is such an amazing program is because it doesn't try and provide one solution. It tries to provide lots. So the women on the Superstars of STEM program go out and speak to the media and raise their public profiles. They're really visible role models to really start pushing and chipping away at the stereotypes and really showing what a scientist can look like, not what people expect a scientist might look like. They also go to schools and they directly inspire children. And then the program not only does that, it also supports women in STEM already. It helps them stay there and it helps them rise to the top levels of STEM. So how does it work? So STA is delighted to be able to select 60 amazing, brilliant women from all around different types of STEM, and they are diverse women. And we bring them into the program and provide them with some advanced communication training. So we train them in media, in social media, in public speaking. And then we pair them with a high-flying, amazing mentor from our community, someone who already has a really high profile and who is willing to share the knowledge of what it is to be a public figure in Australia with our Superstars of STEM. Then our superstars go out into schools, as we've already talked about, and they talk to the next generation. We support them to speak to the media. We support them to seek public speaking opportunities. And the amazing thing that happens is that they come together in a group. And Misha's already talked about this a little bit, but it's the one thing that really makes this program special. Those women come together and they lift each other up, and together they support their own public profiles, each other's public profiles, and their own careers. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. So this evaluation is focused on these 60 brilliant women that started this program in 2019 and we're supposed to finish it in December 2020, but then there was this little thing called a pandemic. And so with the support of the Australian government, we were delighted to be able to continue to support these women for an extra 6 months, and they finished their time on the program in mid-2021. Those extra 6 months let these amazing women reach even more schools. As we all know, getting into a school in 2020 was a very, very difficult thing, even for school children. So it gives me great pleasure. Let's have a look at what they achieved in this time. I'll show you some slides, because what is an evaluation without at least one graph? So, but first let's start with some numbers. So these amazing women featured in more than 4,000 news articles, on TV, radio, in print and online. They reached in 1 year alone 83 million people with a story about STEM, that featured a woman. Just pause for a minute and think about the powerful force that is to change stereotypes. They also have kicked goals from day one on social media. So they have, in the course of the program, grown their collective following by 300% on Twitter, and had a 250% growth in their LinkedIn connections. Those are some really strong and incredibly influential networks with which they can support their careers going forward. They visited 163 different schools. They actually did about 190 school visits, so there were a few schools in there that invited them back more than once. And through these visits, they inspired more than 21,000 school children from all across our country. So I want to take you through the key takeaways from our evaluation. And first I want to start with school kids. So what we've really found from this evaluation is that when scientists visit schools, it inspires kids to choose STEM. You can see here, as promised, a graph. These are the ages of the school kids that all our superstars spoke to over the 2.5 years. We completed a survey of teachers who were involved in the program, and 94% of them told us that they felt the visit influenced what subjects their students chose. Now, there's a quote here from Katrina Silverstone, who's a teacher at Alfred Deakin High School. I'll let you read that yourself. But what it really goes to is the reason why these types of programs are so important in really demonstrating to students what STEM is and how it's connected to their real world. The teachers rated the Superstars program 9.5 out of 10, and 100% of them would recommend it to a colleague. So I'd like to say to all the teachers, please go ahead, recommend us to a colleague, because we would love to be working with more of your colleagues and reaching more students. So our second key takeaway was around public profile. But first I want to share with you this amazing word cloud here. So this word cloud was developed from asking our superstars survey questions, and these ones were around what's the impact of the program for you? What do you do differently because of the Superstars program? And I think you can see some amazing and really exciting themes coming through here. Obviously, lots of them were really starting to grapple with media and taking on new experiences with working with the media. They were brushing up against all new types of opportunities. There's lots of themes about change and more confidence and support. One of the key things we hear, and I mentioned it at the start, is that these women really feel like they are supported by this group and that it helps their careers. In fact, 93% of them told us that connections that they made with other superstars helped their careers. And their bosses agreed. We surveyed employers of our superstars, and 3 in every 4 of them told us that their superstar employees' career had advanced because of their involvement in the program. Now, the last key finding I want to share with you is about a media profile and how it supercharges the world-changing impact of women in STEM. So 84% of our superstars told us in surveys that their reach and profile had grown due to the program. Now, I want to come back to this stat. You might remember it from earlier, from the numbers page. So 83 million people reached through traditional media in 1 year. It's an example of what they did in 1 year. And we talked about how this has an amazing opportunity to change stereotypes. But I also want to draw your attention to the fact that it's so much more than that. The superstars of STEM are first, primarily, and always scientists, technologists, engineers, and mathematicians. This represents an opportunity for them to get their science and their ideas out to everyday people, out to government, to leaders, to parliamentarians. Get their ideas out to contribute their knowledge and their expertise to build a better society for all of us. That's what this opportunity represents. It has a huge impact. Now let me introduce you to Kate Cole. She's one of our superstars. Here's a picture of her. She is an occupational hygienist and an engineer. And in early 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, she was worried about face masks because she knew that Australia had a lot of fake and faulty face masks on the market. She worked with the support of STA to bring this to the notice of the media. And you can see here on this slide that it became front page news on the front of, in this case, The Age, in March 2020. In response, the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, called for a national probe, and this resulted in more than 500 faulty masks being removed from sale in Australia, 500 different types of masks. This resulted in safer masks for healthcare workers at the beginning as they worked through the pandemic. Last month, Kate received a Medal of the Order of Australia in recognition of her work for safety. Her work protected thousands of healthcare workers, and it probably protected millions of ordinary Australians like you and I as we used face masks throughout the pandemic. Women scientists in the media have impact. This is what the power of the Superstars of STEM program is, raising up brilliant scientists so they can have an impact on all of us and on all of our lives. So that is just a little taste of the evaluation report. And you can read about our full results by going and downloading the report on the website. So I don't want to hide behind any more PowerPoints. Let's talk to some people who are really involved in this program. So it gives me absolutely delight to introduce you to Marie Timms, who is a teacher at Galen Catholic College in Wangaratta in South Victoria. Welcome, Marie, and thank you so much for coming today.
Hi everyone, I'm coming in from Pangarang land, so up in northeast Victoria, and I absolutely love the Superstars of STEM program. We've used it twice, but just recently during the lockdowns and the hard lockdowns, we had a computing class that I take part in. It's just looking at a very small 4-bit computer, but it breaks down a computer into all its modules, and it's really binary maths. So we're teaching binary maths and maths concepts and computing concepts all in one. And we had Asha Rao to come in, and she zoomed into our class. To just have someone of her stature, of the Associate Dean of Mathematics at RMIT, like, it just blows your mind that someone like that will give up their time to zoom in and talk to year 8s. And, you know, doing Zoom and interacting with young children is hard, but we made a plan. We had plenty of emails, and we'd done a binary trick. And so to break the ice, she did a binary. We got the kids doing the binary trick to her, and then she was able to just broken the ice, ask questions. She had a presentation showing her journey, but it was really, as you said, communication training. You could tell, because for someone who's normally working with university PhD students, to come down to a year 8 level and keep them engaged was amazing. And she was able to just really highlight that maths is in everything. People think cybersecurity is about computing and coding, but there's so much maths. I mean, even I learnt stuff. So
that sounds amazing, Marie. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like in the classroom after the visit? What impacts did you see on students? How were they engaging with the things differently?
It was hard because it was during the hard lockdown, so it was faces on screens everywhere. But when we came back, there was about 4 or 5 students, and can I say all of them were girls, who came up to me afterwards and said, when that lady, they forgot her name. But they said, when she spoke about maths, it really hit home, and I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the highest maths possible. And they are in the top maths class at the moment. And they, you know, just those comments of, we didn't realise how much maths was in everything. And yeah, so it really just brought home the mathematics. So yeah, it was, I think, just having a female role model and seeing them in a position that she's in, 2 young girls, has just opened their mind of, oh, this is life. This is what people out there are really like, you know. That's we can do this.
Now, 2020 taught me, Marie, that I am not a teacher. It doesn't matter how much I supervise my children homeschooling. And I think it's really raised the awareness of the amazing work the teachers do every day in this country, and how hard it actually really is. There's all the work that you do with the curriculum, bringing, you know, really deciding what messages to send to students at each time point. And I just wanted to ask you, how does the Superstars of STEM program, or being able to bring somebody like Asha, or I know you've had another one of our superstars, Kate Grock, with you as well, how does that really help you and aid you as a teacher to get the messages from the curriculum into the students?
It just really, it shows what real life is about. I mean, I have used YouTube videos of our Superstars of STEM, and Lisa would know the you to me, young me. There's a whole lot of amazing Australian superstars. So I will often use them as well, but to have them in person and to really chat to them, it just opens mine. And being in a regional area, we can get, all teachers can get in a bubble, but we've got to step out of our bubble. And there's so many superstar teachers, superstars of STEM out there that want to talk to us, and to connect with a superstar of STEM is easy. You know, you can follow them on social media, but the platform is just, here's what I'm doing, type it in, here's what I would like to do, can you link me up with a superstar? I mean, all we've got to do is put up our hands as teachers to say, this is a topic I'm doing, this is what I'd like, and magic happens.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah, we just have to get out of our bubbles.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. And thanks so much for the little advertisement there of teachers of how to do it. You were trying to think of the Future You program, Lisa's amazing program. Thanks so much for being with us, Marie. I'd really love to now introduce you guys all to one of our superstars of STEM, our amazing superstars from this cohort. Yarrawonga woman, Dr. Kalinda Griffiths. Now, Kalinda's a epidemiologist, and she uses her expertise to investigate complex health disparities, particularly in Indigenous populations. Now, she and another one of our superstars, Heidi Smith-Vaughan, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, but they both had a passion in common as superstars, and that was to get more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people into biomedical sciences. Kalinda, can you tell us what the two of you did with your passion?
Yeah, thanks, Sandra, and thanks for having me today. I'm calling in from the unceded lands of Larrakia people before I begin in Darm. And I'd like to pay my respects to all elders, those of the past, the present and emerging, as well as acknowledge other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present here today. So just to give you a bit of backstory, Heidi and I have known each other for many years, and in fact, Heidi assisted in some of my microbiology training. And I used to get to pick her brain when I was doing a certificate in laboratory techniques. So I think I was 17 years old when I first met her, and this was way back in the late 1990s. And so throughout the years, we would often speak about ideas, I guess, that could develop diversity within our current education system. I didn't see many people like myself in the room as an Aboriginal woman, and we also didn't see many, women generally within the laboratory. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that we spoke a lot about rebuilding the whole system, rebuilding it to make it still right. And we often spoke about the need for equitable education pathways. And there was a particular importance in there to better support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people through science, recognising that there are some challenges in being able to drive that forward. And so both of us being located in the NT and me remotely in the NT working with UNSW, Heidi as a microbiologist with Menzies School of Health Research, we saw some of those challenges on the ground as well. And this allowed us to see what actually worked for people. So we kind of got our heads together, and she had already developed up a program called Health Lab, which kind of brought engagement science to communities, schools and workplaces. And so kind of working on that, Heidi pitched the idea actually of a centre where we could bring together some of that thinking, some of those discussions that had happened over the years, and it happened while we were on the Superstars program, and also bring together some of our existing collaborations to innovate different models of education pathways. And it was an exciting time, just the idea that we could potentially work with people in outer regional and remote areas within a culturally competent space. It kind of blew my mind. It was really very exciting. Yeah.
It sounds incredible, Kalinda. Can you tell us what the impact of the centre has been so far on the community and on yourselves as well?
Yeah, so the outcome from that was we got $1 million back in 2020, and this was from the Rem Chiotti Foundation for what's now the Rem Chiotti Regional Remote Health Science Training Centre. And I guess we don't do things exactly as you would ordinarily expect. So our metrics are a little bit different. There is a flexibility and innovation within our training models that aims to build the capabilities of the health and biomedical workforces in regional and remote Australia. And I guess really important to the work that we do are the values that kind of underpin that. And this includes equity, reciprocity, self-determination. We've got mutual support in there as well as trust. And so those things have been quite critical, and seeing how people have kind of come through. And personally, it's been one of the proudest pieces of work that I've ever been engaged in. There's something really special about being part of someone's journey, and impact of which to date we've had 66 students, with about 60% being Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander people through. And we really are just getting started as well. The demand is so high. We've got people lining up at the door saying, have you got space? We actually have a backlog of people because we don't have the capacity of the staff to be able to take people on. It's in such high demand. People want to be engaged, and if we're able to do that in a way that, can accommodate people's living arrangements, their situations, their current education, needs, we can do some really important things. I think, you know, it really highlights how we can do great things together. Yeah.
It absolutely does, Kalinda, and it really resonated with me today. And when you said about what it means to you to be involved in someone's progress, for someone's story, there's someone's education, and someone's journey, really. And because that's how I feel about the Superstars of STEM. I get the privilege to be involved in all of your journeys, which are absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you to finish after that amazing and inspiring story, to tell us a little bit about what the impact of the Superstars of STEM program has been on you, and what you've loved about it?
Yeah, well, when I first started in the Superstars program, I still really hadn't found my voice. I was a bit of a nervous wreck. I found speaking publicly difficult. I was really good one-on-one, but you know, like, look at me go now. I am supported. I feel really confident in my training, in my capabilities as well. And I frequently do presentations. This is my third one this week, in fact. I also regularly do media, including press conferences. And actually, I've been on a few with Kate Cole around the COVID-19 pandemic and driving some change across there. And I get to speak to parliamentarians and governments quite frequently as well. So it's given me a real, like, I guess, tangible and like, I don't know, I don't want to sound too far out, but power. Like, it's given me like, yeah, I feel supported. So I guess the program supported these practical strategies on how to better articulate my research, and it's done that across a number of settings, not just one or the other. And I think it goes without saying that the relationships as well that have been developed and grown throughout the program have been absolutely invaluable. I've had access to extraordinary women, like, just hearing today, it's really overwhelming. It makes me feel like just going very excited and really happy to see not just, you know, the next superstars coming through, but also the impact that we're having on the next generation as well. And I think that the opportunities that have occurred since the Superstars of STEM program, or since I've been involved with the Superstars program, it's enabled me to better support myself, but also to better support my community. And to me, that's the point of the exercise. You know, ultimately, it's not just about the program in itself or the research itself. It's about bringing it all together, and that vision to do that. It's worked. It works. This model works. Yeah, awesome.
Thanks so much, Kalinda. I don't think anyone could have articulated it better. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here today. It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Mark Hutchinson today to do the most important job of all, I think, actually, Mark.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm joining you today from Ghanaland, where I am beside the waters of the Torrens River, and people have gathered here for thousands of years. I pay my respect to elders past and present, and I acknowledge the enduring connection to land and water that our Indigenous brothers and sisters have and always will. My name is Mark Hutchinson. I'm really honoured to perform the role of President of Science and Technology Australia. It's a spectacular day, a really exciting day, and a fantastic day to be celebrating women and girls in science. To do this also on a day when there's been the announcements of these new substantial investments made by the Australian government into advancing our collective vision. Our vision is to see you do it so they can be it. It's so wonderful to hear about the story of impact that Superstars of STEM program has had on women who work in science and technology, on the children and teachers with whom you have all interacted, and in the classrooms, how it's changing the stereotypes and what we see as a vision for the future of science being an inclusive and diverse one, and that being echoed in the media. As Sandra said, I get to do the best job today. I get to say all the thank yous. And those are really heartfelt thank yous across a range of people and organisations, and amazing people who have enabled this program to become the success and have the reputation that it has. So firstly, we could not run this program without the support of our amazing partner organisations, and the first of those is the Australian Government, through the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources as our major supporter. They supported the program back in 2017. It was expanded and accelerated with the enthusiastic support of the then Jobs and Innovation Minister, Michaela Cash. And as Misha said, we've had ongoing strong support from science ministers ever since. Karen Andrews, who remains one of our dedicated mentors today, right through to the current Minister, Melissa Price, who has joined us in December to demonstrate the impact that the program has through video, to meeting with the superstars of STEM. And in fact, she's meeting with the superstars of STEM either right now, my time zones are all over the place today, but she's there in Perth at the Pawsey Supercomputer to celebrate International Day of Women and Girls in Science. The program has always enjoyed strong bipartisan support from across Parliament. We continue to have parliamentarians from both sides of the aisles to dedicated mentors in the program to help lift you amazing women up to the next level in your careers. We thank each of them for their ongoing support. In addition to that fantastic underpinning government support, we also have a range of fantastic partner organisations: GE Australia, Google Australia, the Department of Defence, STEM Matters, The Conversation, and the Australian Science Media Centre. Your continued commitment to diverse and inclusive STEM workforce and this passion has made you become partners in this program. Its successes and the difference you see in your own workplaces is what we hope continues you supporting this program into the future. Your visionary support from the beginning and ongoing is helping create this inclusive and diverse STEM workforce for the future that we can all benefit from. This all began as an inkling of an idea in a very special person's mind, and that was Kylie Walker, the former CEO of STA, who established this program in 2017. Kylie, we thank you. We all thank you. I thought I was going to get emotional today, and all the stories I've heard, thank you. Your drive and your support and that of the former board members in backing the initiative over these years from former STA presidents, Jim Piper, Emma Johnston, Jeremy Brownlee. This has all come together in creating an opportunity for us to have a diverse STEM workforce. And this is a core business that STA pursues still today. This program is one of the ways we as a country nurture and build this workforce for the future. We also have had a range of professionals, dedicated professionals, like the superstar, embodied superstar, Dr. Sandra Gardam, who leads the program and is Deputy CEO of STA. We've had amazing additional support from people like Evelyn Fetterplace, who works with Sandra as Program Officer to deliver each stage of the program. Before them, there was Brodie Steele and Georgia Elliott. You have all gone above and beyond to support these incredible women here today and others who weren't able to join us. In actual fact, the entire STA staff team and board members and the volunteers that have contributed to making this program sing. Thank you all, past and present staff. And I want to give a particular shout out to the incredible comms managers who have really enabled your voices to come through. Dion Pretorius, who was a comm manager at the beginning of the program, and today Martin Pierce, who's probably working his butt off trying to get the stories out today about all the great stuff that's happening. And of course, we heard from her at the beginning of the session today, Misha Schubert, our STA CEO. Misha has brought her own deep journalism experience to new levels of success and leadership to this fantastic program. A huge shout out to our training partners. These people and organisations share their expertise and tips and tricks to build up your confidence as superstars so that you can go on and make the next steps into the spotlight out there in a scary place sometimes in the media. Then there's the incredible mentors and such a diverse range of people who commit their time. These are Australian CEOs, chief scientists, cabinet ministers, parliamentarians, company directors, journalists and top executives, busy people in their own right who have taken and dedicated time out of their days to provide you with that leadership experience and practical advice, to open doors for you, to share their contacts with you generously, to help you take the next step further into the media spotlight as superstars of STEM. Many of those mentors tell us that they get as much out of the program from you as you might get out of the program. We really hope that that is a bi-directional benefit because we want them to keep helping the program prosper. So thank you to them. But of course, the biggest thank you, and the reason this program has succeeded is because of you. What an amazing constellation of women doing fantastic science. Yes, the program released today and the review has focused on just the most recent cohort, but there's over 150 of you incredible superstars out there now doing fantastic things for communicating STEM out to the public. When you joined the Superstars program, that required you to make a significant commitment, a commitment to go above and beyond the current demands of an everyday, very busy life and a very, very busy career in science. That is something that we are really grateful for you to have done because you've chosen to pursue the public spotlight. You've chosen to be the role models. This is enabling you to create the path that those that come after you might find it just that little bit easier to have that success. It's time that we acknowledge that your light and the brilliance that you bring is to say this right here is what scientists look like, that diversity. If there was one thing that this program has done, it's made it really easy to follow what you're up to. And I love jumping on to Superstars of STEM hashtag on Twitter to see the everyday activities that you do both in science and in life. Please keep sharing those. They're inspiring. I invite, if you're not already following, follow these people right here. Extraordinary stories. So in closing, I encourage you to all support the next generation of women and girls in science to grow our constellation of science excellence. Thank you from me, and thank you from STA for everyone joining us today. Thank you.
We'd like to invite everybody to turn off their, turn their microphones on so we can hear all that clapping for our Superstars of STEM. Thanks everyone for joining us.